All right, we're back with State Representative John Patterson. How you doing, John?
I'm doing great.
Beautiful day out there.
It certainly is. The nights are great for sleeping too.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. I got up this morning about 2 and I go, what? When I went to bed, we had all the windows open. Apparently, some point of the night, Michelle thought it mugged up, and she had the air conditioning on. I was freezing. I go, what is the matter with this girl? So I went and turned the air off and opened some windows, and I just like to have open windows. That's the way I grew up. We didn't have air conditioning in my day,
No.
But we've been spending a lot of time outside at the patio and barbecuing, and it's just been lovely. And finally, today we're supposed to get some rain.
You need a little bit.
We do need some.
A little bit.
Yeah. So how's everything else been going with you?
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Good.
That's a good
Keeping
thing.
busy.
Oh, everywhere I go.
I have a couple viewers here that have just sent me a couple of questions, and well, they actually asked it over the air, and I said, John will be here Monday. We'll ask them. Kasich, of course, down in Columbus, our governor, running for president, taking a lot of credit for saving Columbus a lot of money, but he took it away from cities
Local government,
and
our
school
schools.
districts.
That's correct.
And one viewer said, "Hey, is there any way to get that money back or to do something?" And he said, maybe you could ask John and see, is there anything you can do about this, or is he just going to sit on it?
He's got his own route to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I did see in the news reports that we get internally that there's a movement on perhaps to override his veto when we get back. And here's what happened. The first part, we had some contentious internal and external debate about the school funding piece. And part of the effort that is hurting some schools is the phase out of the tangible personal property tax.
Mm-hmm.
It's still intact for this year, this school year coming, but for next year, the governor line item vetoed that out of the budget. So a very good friend of mine who is the chair of the Finance Committee, Rep. Smith, is willing to be part of the movement to try and get enough votes to override his veto to restore that funding as we had done in the House version of the budget, which I worked on. Remember, I was a part of the subcommittee there on primary, secondary education. Don't know how far that will go. It may not happen because it would be embarrassing to the governor, and the powers that be, and I'm not one of them, might find that a bridge too far. But I'm definitely willing to work with my Republican colleagues to override that veto and restore that funding to the school, that component, as we work towards a sustainable funding source in line with the DeRolf decision. We still haven't given up on that, and there is support, bipartisan support, to keep moving in that direction.
Okay.
So it's like turning a big ship around. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
But there is definitely a number of us, both sides of the aisle, who want to achieve that as a goal.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing was, maybe it was the same person asked this question today. He was listening to a radio broadcast and said that this financial expert was saying that property taxes will be eventually the demise of cities. Does that sound?
Well, it's concerning for me for this reason. There right now is an over-reliance on property taxes, and it's a part of the puzzle, but because we've shifted so much of the burden to that component, local governments have been forced to do that because of the cuts to the local government fund.
Okay.
There's no other way for them to raise money, and you see all the levies that's coming down. What further complicates this picture and puts a squeeze on the local governments is the fact that in the last budget, and I voted against this too, the state has eliminated the rollback, the 10% rollback, and has greatly curtailed the homestead exemption, which means that new money going forward, new money is going to be more difficult to sell to the taxpayers when they realize that that's gone. That was part of the whole income tax, CAUV tax, comprehensive agreement back in the 1970s. So we have got to revisit our whole tax policy, and that is not, I'll be honest, that's one of the things I struggle with, because it is so complex, and I need help from, and I've got a very good friend on the other side of the aisle who specializes in this, and we've had a number of conversations about charting a new course for taxation. Income tax, sales tax, property tax, business taxes, all of that have to be woven so they're fair and shared. And right now, there's been a tax shift, definitely a tax shift, and concerned about that, because future growth relies on having adequate funding for our infrastructure, for businesses, schools, and communities to continue to grow.
You mentioned homestead exemption,
Yes.
and I know that was a concern of yours also.
Yes.
And has anything?
There's been no movement on that one. They've restricted it. Those who had it are grandfathered in. And I know you might be moving in that direction. You might be possibly a little bit older than 60, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, same.
Perhaps. I'm just throwing that out there.
Much older than 60. Actually, I'm going to tell you something. I got a call from a friend of mine that works in the auditor's office and said, you know, Pat, she knew how old it was. You probably are would be capable of getting homestead exemption. However, it's in January. This is back when it was going to go into effect.
Yeah.
It's going to be taken away.
Yeah.
And by golly, she got me through, and last year I saved $400 on my tax.
And that's a lot, especially when you're on a fixed income.
Absolutely.
And we argued against that because, again, it was part of that budget policy that allowed the last two budgets for income tax to take place, and I'm not opposed to that. But on whose shoulders was that money replaced? And again, it was some of our how can I say this, more mature population that bore that, in part, that brunt. So that concerns me.
Yeah.
Fair and share. It's common sense, but sometimes common sense does not make it inside 270.
You know, I had an editor who once told me years and years ago, he goes, if you use common sense for anything that you do, it's going to win you the game. But he goes, if you don't use common sense, you're going to probably fall down. And I still believe in that, you know. How about this tax holiday?
Oh my goodness, gets me all excited. Now you know that I sponsored the companion bill in the House.
Right.
And they took the Senate bill to run with it. And I argued on the floor that this was critically important for us who live in the border counties of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So as this was building up, I was watching with anticipation, and had communicated to several of the media outlets that we needed to make our people aware, because it was the first time, and it's an experiment at this point. We would have to renew this for next year. They're going to review it. But I looked at the front page of Star Beacon today. They were excited about it, and that was my comment all along. Part of our way of life here in Northeast Ohio, prior to going back to school, is those annual caravans. And I love my Pennsylvania neighbors, but the Mill Creek Mall, the Grove City outlets, in order to take advantage of that tax break on clothing.
Right.
So my argument was, let's help Ohio stores, especially in the border counties like ours, stimulate sales and help somewhat our taxpayers, especially those with kids going back to school, in the form of a sales tax holiday.
My wife has a question for you.
Okay.
We were sitting outside last night having a glass of wine, and she said, will you ask Mr. Patterson? She calls you Mr. Patterson.
Oh, jeez, John is good.
John. I said, his name's John. She said, would you ask him, you know, we spent $337 at Walmart the other day on different things. We needed some new lamps for the living room, nothing fancy, just something that would light up and work. And she goes, we spent all that money, and she goes, did that tax holiday, and I go, I think it was mostly for school supplies.
That is correct.
And clothing.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And we tried the original bill, and I kind of, now that I look back on it, we originally had computer supplies up to a certain amount, because it's part of going back to school now,
right.
For some. But the tax department kind of balked at that, feeling that that could be abused. So clothing, for example, up to $75. I mean, you could buy however many items you wanted at $74.99.
Mm-hmm.
But
and you got the break.
And you got the break.
Okay.
So it didn't matter how many, as long as it was below that figure. And our feeling was jeans, outfits, shoes definitely would fall into that. And that adds up over a period. You have a few kids, and you know how they grow over the summer before our very eyes.
Yeah.
And notebooks, pens, and all of those sorts of things.
So you bring back some memories here. When I was in school, back in the 50s and 60s, I think I had one pair of pants and 2 shirts. That was it back in those days. Dad made probably $3,000 or $4,000 a year, and so we were not the richest trees in the forest. So yeah, and it usually was a pair of corduroy pants because they kept you warm.
Yeah, that's
and they
right.
lasted forever.
They never wore out.
Never, and I hated those things. I hated them.
Did you get the hand-me-downs?
Oh, I didn't have anybody to hand me down. I was the oldest one.
Oh, jeez, bummer on that one.
And I had 2 sisters, so they didn't get anything either. But
so you didn't have to share either.
No sharing.
No hand-me-downs, no sharing. What's not to like about that?
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed that. What else is happening?
What else is happening? Well, we have D-Day coming up too.
We do.
We can't forget D-Day.
Yep.
And
a little over a week away.
I know. Some quiet, shy, and assuming councilman by the name of Phil Garcia. You know of whom I speak.
I do.
Wanted a big shout out there because I've been in touch with ODOT concerning we're going to try to get one of those orange temporary signs as D-Day, Conneaut this exit, and I've been in touch with ODOT. They're going to get back to me. I don't know what the verdict is, but I reached out to them because it is such an important event for Conneaut. It showcases, my gosh, it is the finest facility in the whole United States for that reenactment.
Yeah.
And it deserves that kind of blessing from ODOT. And the person I'm working with actually was in the county this week, and I said, now make sure that you check things out.
Sure.
And I'll be in touch with you.
Where would that be put?
Well, on I-90.
90, okay.
You know, the orange ones that light up. And,
yeah.
We put one eastbound and westbound to help remind. We did that when the interstate was under construction a few years ago, and it seemed to help. And I was talking to tourism folks, and they're very appreciative of the directional signs, marina and beach that we have out on the interstate. And further, Phil and Connie Naylor contacted me a while back about putting a Conneaut sign, directional sign, at the end of Route 11.
Oh,
when you end right there at the Crow's Nest.
Yeah.
And I contacted ODOT, and it's going to be done.
Really?
It's going to be done.
Fantastic.
So again, and that's why this show and being out is so important. There are so many things. I can't be everywhere.
Right.
And as much as I try to be, it's very helpful when people bring things to my attention. I can't deliver miracles, but I can at least ask and see what we can do. And sometimes great things happen. So
you never know. You got to keep plugging away.
Yep.
You say you do a lot, and you do. You're on the go all the time. I don't know how your wife puts up with that.
I married an angel, didn't you?
Oh, of course.
Didn't you? Yeah, that's right, working for him. Best thing you ever did, wasn't it?
Yes.
That's right. I'm here for you.
Yeah,
here for you. Yeah,
she understands.
She does, because she cares. She's a district girl, too. Geneva.
Yeah.
Kids raised here, so that's important to us.
Excellent.
And remind me to come back to tourism, because I've got more good news.
Okay. Hi, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Mr. Patterson.
Hello there.
I listened to the governor and is gathering up all his money, but he failed to say where he was getting it from. Now, I'm concerned about, and I don't know if you did that, Mr. Garza said, about Ashcraft Industries out there and Happy Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, I think those people have some rights.
Yes.
Now, granted, they don't vote, they don't pay taxes, but they do have rights.
Yes.
But their parents do. Their parents pay taxes.
And their parents vote, and I've heard from them with respect to that closing. I can tell you this, and I've been in touch as recently as a couple weeks ago with the folks out there. Jan Church, I think you know of her.
Very well.
And we have a 9-year reprieve, which means that we have a window of time here to chart a new course to meet federal and state regulations and be creative to save what we have out there. So we've got some working room, but we've got to get on this to come up with a model that meets both standards, because I am definitely committed to ensuring that those individuals have a place to work and a place to fulfill their destiny. And one of the greatest joys I get is when I visit out there and walk through Ashcraft. I get some of the best hugs ever, outside of my wife, of course, from the people working there. So we have to fight to keep that open, and I'm committed to doing just that.
Are they going to continue the waiver stuff? They're still going to get rid of people every year?
Well,
if they don't meet their waiver?
Sadly, the waiver component is a part of this equation, and I cannot change that. I mean, that's where they're working at the federal level too, I might add, to see how we can get that resolved.
Well, the federal boys, they're giving out money for college degrees for inmates. I don't know if you saw that on the news.
I did not see that.
Yeah, they're giving them money so they can have a master's degree or this, that, and the other. And I can't understand with all these counties why even attorneys, a little pro bono work wouldn't hurt if for volunteering and whatever. I don't think you remember, Pat, when they had in the paper that lady from Happy Hearts that caught that foul ball in Cleveland?
Yes.
Jan Church.
Yeah.
Guess who she was with out there to catch that ball? The kids from Happy Hearts.
Yes, yeah, she took them there.
Now, if they privatize, do you think they're going to take them kids up there? Are they going to be able to pick them up and take them up there to give them a better life?
No, probably not.
And their standards do not have to meet the state standards. The state police are in that garage checking them buses 2-3 times a year to make sure they're safe. And if they're not, they don't move. I mean, who's going to watch these people? And what's really bad is if you move them, they decide they're not happy and they rob a bank, they have special needs. They can't even go to prison. This is bad news. I mean, of all the people to pick on,
Yeah.
I mean, it should hit the national news.
It probably will, along with the inequality in school funding, now that the governor is under the national microscope. The Washington Post is famous, and as a journalist you can appreciate this, for their investigative reporting.
Right.
And
Well, I want everybody in the whole state to vote for him. Make sure he's president so we can get him out of Ohio and tear off his passport.
oh, gee.
Because he's not on my Christmas card list.
Well, he's not on mine either.
That's ridiculous. And I'll tell you one short thing. That Happy Hearts bus used to come by my house. And at Christmas time, we had the whole house all lit up and the balloons in the yard and the whole bit. Well, evidently one of them little boys on that bus was impressed with it. Word got around, and we invited him over, and he looked outside. We brought him inside, and I'll tell you, the look of that smile on that boy's face, he was about 12. But I'd rather have that than the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, yep.
Sure.
And he came a couple times more over the summer the following year. I don't know if he got sick or they moved or whatever, then he just all of a sudden disappeared.
Yeah.
But that made me right there.
I understand that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Something has to be done about that.
We're fighting that battle.
Yeah.
And the folks out there, Ann and Jan, are really being proactive and trying to recruit. If you're interested in helping us, and I'd encourage anybody to join our bandwagon, give a call out there and see where you can be plugged in to give us the help, give us the muscle to fight for this cause.
You know, Ashcraft has their hot house. I always buy my plants out there and whatever.
Sure. Yeah, we do too.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, them critters, they're God's creatures across the street from there, should get the same treatment. Both sides of the street.
APL.
And you're picking on the wrong side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to bother you. But
No, glad you called.
Thank you for your concern.
Alrighty.
Bye-bye. Okay. Yeah, he's got a point. That's a story that really needs to have a happy ending too.
And we're trying, and they're trying out there too, and there are many sympathetic hearts and ears in the House and in the Senate, but we have to get through to the powers further up the food chain.
Maybe if there's another debate, they could ask that question.
We could plant that. Because it does deserve an answer.
It does.
I mean, societies are judged. How do you take care of the most vulnerable? The elderly, and think of the homestead exemption, and the weak, and this is an example of that. Or the young, and think what we've done to school funding. I mean, it's not a good record.
No, it isn't.
And that's what concerns me. I just want to do what's right for our people. That's all.
Yeah.
It's common sense.
And as you said, unfortunately, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to keep plugging away.
No.
You want to go back to tourism?
Yes. Remember that I've been saying that Director of Tourism has promised to come up in mid-September? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I have to work out the details. It's September 17th, off the top of my head. Could be the 18th, but what day is that?
Thursday.
Thursday. I wonder if I could get her on the Pat Williams show.
I'd love that.
I figured so. Panel discussion with a few other.
And it doesn't have to be at 8 o'clock.
No, we can work her in. But that comes to mind. I definitely want to get her out to see the Tourist Information Center and as such, and a few other stops in the county, so that she understands what we have here.
It's a lady, right?
Yes, Mary Kusick is her name. But I've been working on that for almost a year now.
I know.
And that's how slowly things work. It's just reality. And in her defense, she's been preoccupied gearing up for the Republican National Convention coming to Cleveland. I mean, that's important too from a tourism perspective.
Huge.
But she's committed to coming up, and she's on our calendar, and I want to work out the final schedule, and we'll see if we can maneuver her into the Pat Williams show.
That would be great.
The voice of Northeast Ohio.
I don't know about that, but I'd certainly love to have her.
But I thought you'd want to know that.
You know, we're talking about tourism, and John, I went down to the lakefront. Actually, when I left the show Friday, went down. I went back down yesterday, I guess it was. I couldn't believe the boats, even though there wasn't a lot of boats that one day because it was so rough out there and the wind was blowing, and there were all kinds of warnings up. But yesterday I went down there, and it was a lot of boats out there. The waves had slowed down. They went down. And went through Township Park, which is absolutely gorgeous this time of year.
Yes.
And a lot of people there enjoying themselves, using the pavilions. And the thing that got me was out-of-town plates. There was a lot of people, that, not just from Conneaut, there were people from out of town, Pennsylvania. There was even one guy called in the other day and said that there was plates from the West, out like, I don't know, I think it's Montana or something. I go, that's wonderful. How are they finding us? I don't know.
Well, the tourism folks are doing their good job, and I think people, especially some of the boomers in their middle ages, are looking for quality of life experiences. Okay, and I want to share a quick story with you and how that relates to Conneaut.
Okay.
Just returned last week from the West Coast. Nancy and I went to Portland and Oregon for a week, and then I had a convention in Washington State, in Seattle. It was fantastic. Wow. Leadership had wanted me to go, and there were some excellent, I've got some ideas about raising the bar for schools and how we can help our schools with a quality international education. But that was the professional side of things. Personally, we hadn't had a vacation, a real vacation, since I ran for office in 2012. So this is a time for us to...
You were due.
We were due. So we got a cottage on the ocean, and her brother used to live in Portland, and he took us out to the ocean. When we were there, we visited him once, and it struck a chord with me. Great place to go. Here's the story. Not only did we watch the sunset, and reminisced and thought about Conneaut, but we also saw a moon set. We got up at 5:15 one morning. Remember when the moon was full?
Yeah.
And actually watched it set on the position. You can't do that here because of the tree. We're just not well situated. But here's my comment. There are only a few places on Earth where you can really watch the sunset over a body of water.
Mm-hmm.
And we have one of those special places because the way the lake is situated in a northeast, southwest angle, and the way the sun sets in the summertime, absolutely gorgeous. I think people are looking for that kind of experience. I've got one, but we won't tell your wife. You need to do this for me sometime.
Okay.
Go to Geneva, about sunset time, purchase a ticket for the Ferris wheel. And at the Old Firehouse Winery there, you can watch the sunset while turning around on the Ferris wheel.
Really?
It's absolutely, took my wife there, and she's a Geneva girl, a year ago, and put some big points in the bag for one of those romantic experiences.
Yeah.
Always here to help you. That's part of the Code of Brothers. But the sunsets are absolutely beautiful. And my point is, people are looking for those quality of life experiences, and Township Park is absolutely gorgeous. The beach there, we have such a precious jewel, and word is getting out. In the new technology, the communication, and the work that Connie Naylor and her folks are doing is really penetrating the greater world. And that's exciting because not only does it bring money in the form of tourism, it also brings people in and say, you know, this is a great place. I might want to live here, or I might want to establish my business here.
Sure.
Anytime we can get that outside contact in a very positive way, it helps us all.
Well, you know, you're exactly right about the sunsets. I've always say there's nothing more free than watching a sunset. It's there for us every night practically, and we lived right on the water in North Kingsville here a few years ago, moved back to Conneaut. That was in North Kingsville. But it became the fact that we were there every day, and you become almost taking it for granted. It's there, you know, you live there, and now that I'm still close to the lake, but a block away, and it's like too many trees around, I can't see it. So you have to get in the car and go look at it.
And that's not a bad thing, because that creates quality time.
Absolutely. You know, and that's what you need to do. You have to get that good feeling back. Sunsets are important, and it's part of our life here. And sometimes we do take it for granted. You got to enjoy it. Hi, you're on the air.
Morning, Pat. Good morning, John.
Good morning.
Hi, Tom.
Doesn't John sound like a recording of me a few years ago?
He does.
I have been saying that for years, that if you took a picture of our beach and put it next to a beach like in North Carolina or something, and asked the question, where are you at? And people would not be able to tell you where they're at. I mean, our beach is great. I mean, I think in the whole county, and I'm not trying to cut down Geneva or Asheville at all, but I think our beach is the best in the whole county. And with that being said, I've talked to you before about developing Lakeview Park in the past.
Yes.
Putting a hotel down there and so forth, and the amenities that go along with being along the lake. I hope that if this city manager does try to develop this, I hope he gets a committee together to look at how to develop it versus just giving it to a developer and saying, here you go, do whatever you want, because I'd hate to lose this like scenic view like of woods and trees, you know, just like a development of hotel, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
And I hope the city manager takes that into consideration. But I was listening to John talk there, and I said, man, that sounds like a recording of me about years ago. Because people don't realize. They just don't realize what we have here and the things that we have to offer. And I think things are finally being seen that, you know, because I went down the lake also, Pat. I make a big thing out of it, going down there to see all the different states that are down there.
Yeah, I know you do. I do too.
And there was 2 Texas down there yesterday and a Louisiana.
Is that right?
My.
Yeah, and I'm the one who called in and told you about the Montana being down there, and I've seen Colorado down here at the Crick Ramp.
Yeah.
So I've seen all kinds of western, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah.
That's a little ways away too.
Yep.
They're all coming to see this, you know, because the word's getting out, and that's where I'm glad to see John finally bringing down that head of tourism for the state, because the state's missing the boat too if they
Yes.
don't try to help us get this going, because that is, you know, I wish, like I was telling John and you a long time ago, all it takes is one guy to drive through this town that has a business, and he sees what a nice town it is, and that's all it's going to take. One time. He'll come through, you'll see, man, look at all the land here, the value's low, and I could build my house here, bring my kids here, you know, and have a nice, and build my industry here. That's all it takes is one time.
You're right. You're right.
We're with you.
So that's why I say I'm glad to see John bring that lady down, because we've been talking to him for a long time about bringing her down here.
Yep. I've been working on her a long time to bring her here.
Well, a year, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm glad to see that happening, and like I say, the sharpest corner of the state's well under, and I'm including the whole county, I'm not
Right.
saying county,
Right.
is well underdeveloped.
Yes.
I think that's a great thing, and I think that the word's getting out there. And I'll tell you what, John, thank you for the brown signs
You're welcome.
out on 90, because those beach and marina signs, I think, are putting the word out also, because there's so many people didn't even realize that we had that. So I'm going to let you hang up here, but I just wanted to comment. I just listened to John. I was saying, I could play that recording I had 2 years ago. He'd be the same words coming out of my mouth.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Have a good
Take
day.
care, buddy.
Oh, buddy Tom, smile. Now, the Amboy Bridge
Yes. Yes.
seems to be on target.
Yes, have not had any calls to the office regarding complaints, too noisy, too dusty. I know we have issues with Gore Road,
Yes.
and according to the contract, to the best of my knowledge, when they're done, ODOT will come in and assist them in to put that back in the same condition it was.
Okay.
Hopefully better, but
Right.
from all reports, they're on time. We're still running a little bit ahead.
Aren't they talking, John, by the end of the year?
Yeah, be open, and then enough that we can drive on it, and then by June of next year, the landscaping and everything else, which would include the planting for, I mean, you're not going to plant grass seed in December.
Correct.
When you're done, but by June it'll be totally done. And we have really, I feel we've dodged a bullet on this thing. That bridge was 75 years old. If it had gone out on us without a plan in place, we could have been crippled for a long time. As opposed to, and I know it's an inconvenience, and my heart bleeds for those businesses along there, but it simply had to be done. And I guess it's sort of like ripping off a Band-Aid. Sometimes you just have to.
And I will say this, our city fathers really wanted this done a long time ago, but we were put on this
There's a waiting list.
And I'm talking maybe 10, 15 years. I mean, it was a long time before we were going to have this done. Finally, it came to fruition, and we should, by the end of the year, be able to drive normally on Route 20 as we head into Ashtabula and that sort of stuff.
You know, ODOT deserves a lot of credit. When you think of the miles of road that they have to maintain, and then the winters we have and what happens to them. Remember when Route 11 was closed, the southbound lane?
Yes.
And was in contact with City Manager Timonier, and we were able to get ODOT out there to do the work cheaply for them, because it was so critical to keep that route open. They do plan ahead. Years, they have a schedule, and I've seen it, and it's public record. They are trying their best. And I'll give you another example. 534, they're paving now at night, north of 90, through Geneva there, Spire.
I heard they were doing the
and
night work.
it's a relatively short stretch. You know, you drive it, you're there, and you're gone. Even that is a very expensive project. I mean, they're grinding down and they're paving over, but it's just expensive to do road maintenance. And that reminds me, I had a constituent call about Route 90. They're not done from 45 to 11.
Right.
There is a final topping that is going to be placed So don't think, even though the barricades are done, that they're finished with that.
Okay.
That will even that out a great deal more. They had some problems, and I drove that purposely to see how bad it was. They had some problems with frost this winter, and they weren't done. And I thought at the time, well, this reminds me driving 71, where they've expanded the 3 lanes in Morrow
Right.
County. It was terrible last fall, this winter, with heaving and such. And I thought, man, if we're paying them to finish this off, I'm going to be on the horn. Well, this spring, then, when the weather cleared, they finished, and it's wonderful now. It's 3 lanes from 271, well, actually north of that, all the way into Columbus.
Yeah.
And that's one of the top, did I ever tell you that's one of the top 10 busiest interstates, that stretch from Columbus to
No.
Cleveland, in the nation. In the nation.
It is?
I read that in a AAA manual. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. But when you think how many times you travel that, and the amount of traffic, if that were still a 2-lane or 4,
Yeah.
both directions, how congested that would be.
Yeah.
It's just, I couldn't believe it, but it's just because it connects 70 with 90, essentially, before. And if you get on 90 before it moves north into New York State going east, or going 70 to St. Louis and west, Chicago's mixing that loop. It kind of makes, it's a connector between 80, 90, and 70.
I'll be darned.
That stretch.
Does that bother you, that drive to Columbus? It's a long drive.
The longest drive of anybody, as George Distel used to say, is closer to Toronto than Columbus.
Yeah.
But, it's just something you get used to, and you just do it. It's like anything else. I know that it's 3 hours and 10 minutes without a stop, speed limit. Always go the speed limit. Everybody should be speed limit, right? Seatbelt on, and doing the right thing. I do have Bluetooth, so I can take calls.
Yeah.
And make calls when it's not congested, because that gives me a chance. But it is bothersome, and people have asked, will you commute back and forth in Columbus? No, I share an apartment with another rep. And
that's what I would do. I would not want to do that back and forth. A buddy and I went to see Joni Mitchell. He worked at the radio station, and he asked me if I wanted to ride down with him. I says, yeah, I'm not doing anything that particular day. It just seemed like forever, to go down there. This is before Joni got sick, but it just seemed like that was the longest drive, and then come back that night,
Yeah, down and back days are.
It's a long day.
It is, but it's just, it's part of the equation. It's part of the equation, and it's something that I have to do. It just goes with the tour. And they tease me a lot. You have the longest drive, you have the most snow. I said, yeah, but we also have the most wineries, we have the most beautiful sunsets, and we have the sharpest corner of the state too.
There you go.
Let's not
cover
go
bridges.
That's right, 18 of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there you go. There was I had another update I wanted to get from you, and now it slipped my mind. I can't remember what it was. Down the road, anything coming up that you should tell us about with the...
Yeah. There are a group of us. We had some injection well hearings in Jefferson a couple of Mondays ago, and we had the ranking member of the Natural Resources Committee there, Sean O'Brien. I served with him. He's from Trumbull County, and Mike O'Brien came up as well. Now he serves the southern part of Ashtabula County and northern Trumbull.
Okay.
So you had Ashtabula, southern Ashtabula, northern Trumbull, and the rest of Trumbull. And we invited some of our Republican counterparts to come and listen, because we know in this tier we're getting brine from out of state. And the concern is that we are becoming a dumping ground. And so in conjunction with the county commissioners who invited us, we wanted to get input from the community to find out what their concerns were, and from the township trustees, because they see this firsthand in their townships. And I have been working on legislation since my first term, early my first term, dates back to like February, March of 2013. And I've tried piecemeal. I wanted to introduce the whole bill, and that didn't get any traction. So I tried to put parts of it in as amendments to other bills, and it didn't get any traction. There was just some who didn't want to hear of it. So I think there may be some wisdom to at least give this bill a hearing, a vetting now, so that we can start to talk about these issues. And with the ranking member here in Nashville County listening to this testimony, and with the contacts obviously that he has made in the oil and gas industry, our goal is to put together something that's a win-win-win for everybody. It's a win for the people, we protect the environment. It's a win for the citizens of Ohio because we can explore oil and gas and do so safely as we can, because we all are energy dependent.
Right.
There's got to be a balance there. And then obviously a win for those people who own that property that would get royalties from oil and gas. We just have to do this wisely and see this as a bridge. We have to be moving to renewable, sustainable energy. There's no excuse for not doing that.
Right.
But it's something that we have the ability to take advantage of now, but we have to use this resource wisely. It's like using our lake wisely. What would the folks in California give in their drought to have Lake Erie in their backyard?
Right.
We are so blessed, and every day, it's like being married, you know, you have to appreciate the angel that God has given you. You know what I mean? One more time. Yes. We have to appreciate the beauty of this. No one else, no other district. And I told you, only 8 of us have, counties have lakefront property in the entire state. No one else amongst those 8 has 18 covered bridges and 26, I think, wineries, and the agriculture, and the industry, and the greatest people in the state. What's not to love about the 99th district?
What are your thoughts, John? The City Council has now reopened the issue, and it's been discussed for years, about closing down that trailer park down at Lakeview, and maybe the ball field, and maybe even where the festivals are held, and utilize that for, as Tom Smile said, maybe a development. Tom has a good point that he just doesn't want anybody to go in there and leave it sit another 50 years. What are your thoughts?
I think because the lake is our great asset, it's a conversation that we ought to have. Now, I want to make sure that we just don't run roughshod over those people who are living down there. They have a voice too.
Sure.
And I want to make sure that we don't short shrift our future generations either. Because once the land is sold in a public park like that, or that kind of property that close where it's situated, it's gone. It's never coming back. So a thoughtful, deliberative conversation, vetting of the potential that it might have, it is time to have that conversation.
Yeah. And I agree. When I played slow pitch down there many years ago in the 70s, every night they had packed crowds. I've been saying this right along. That went away. I said the other day that I don't see any teams playing down there. I was wrong. Saturday morning when I went to the farmer's market, there were people playing ball in that baseball park, softball park. But it's far and in between, not like it used to be. Every night they would draw crowds down there, and teams from Ashtabula and Geneva would come down here and play our guys. That's gone away. So, you know, basically that property is sitting pretty much dormant, you know, unfortunately.
And you raise a point that's of deep concern of mine. The softball leagues, the recreational activities, the service organizations, Exchange Club, Rotary.
Right.
They've all come upon some very difficult times. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that real wages haven't increased since the 70s, and yet housing costs have, college costs have, energy has, and people are working longer hours or working additional jobs, and they don't have the time to recreate. That's the root word in recreation, and we need that as human beings. And here's the other thing that's lacking. When you played softball, you knew those guys. It was another bond that held the community together. We are becoming a nation of back porch people. as opposed to front porch people. And let me explain. When I was growing up and a kid, when you rode your bike, the older folks, and that would be us now, would come out on their front porch at night and walk and watch the kids. It was just their entertainment. And you knew that they were watching, and you knew if you screwed up, your parents were going to hurt. But you knew who they were, they knew you, and we were connected.
Right.
Well, now you'll find if there is any, they're watching TV. That's more of our time, or they're in their back area. There aren't as many people on the front porch, and I use that as a metaphor. Strong communities are communities that are interconnected, and we have to allow time away from work for people to develop those relationships, those strong relationships that are necessary, that link us together as human beings so that we understand each other better and can view with greater compassion differing points of view. I mean, that's part of the reason I think that America is diversifying so and polarizing. We don't talk to each other anymore. We talk past each other. And authentic communication, authentic relationship comes from purposeful relationships. It starts with communication.
Yeah. I mean, in my neighborhood, when I was a kid, I mean, there was that, can I borrow a cup of sugar, or, you know, that kind of
Think
stuff.
how our moms used to run back and forth all the time, just, hey, I'm here, come on in, let's have a cup of...
Yeah.
It doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen anymore. And I see it in my neighborhood. I mean, I rarely see, I have a neighbor across the street that I'm good friends with, and we occasionally talk, but not that much, because we're all going this way. You know, we're going in different directions. And it's not the same as the 50s and 60s, and even the 70s. It's changed. And I know exactly where you're coming from.
I had a conversation the other day, one quick note, about, and Don Yanow from Brook Partnership and I were talking about this. With increased technology and the ability to communicate with the cell phones, and how many times, when we joke about this, you see people communicating in the same house, texting each other or across the table.
Right.
But with increased technology, which is good because it brings more people together potentially, but it's still the abstract. With increased technology, we also have to have increased personal interrelationships too, lest we forget about that. That's why I guess as a teacher, I always had concerns about long distance learning. It has its place. It has its place. But there's nothing like human interaction. We are wired to see. I see those beautiful blue eyes of yours right now. and I understand your body language, and I know where you live, and we have a relationship. Well, if I were on a remote site and we had this as a conference call or whatever, it wouldn't be the same. There's something about being in the presence of others, and we have to allocate time for that. I know I'm getting into social philosophy.
Well, I kind of like that, though, because I'll tell you this. I saw an interview the other night, and I can't remember who the person was, but the guy said, if I email you a question, he goes, no. He goes, I'm still in the telephone area, and I'd rather you call me and we could talk one-on-one. He goes, I'm kind of staying away from that emailing stuff and the texting. He goes, I want to talk to you. And I thought, I like that. You know, I like that.
I'll give you an example. We got in from the West Coast at 1 o'clock Friday morning.
That's great.
Like a couple days ago.
Oh, okay.
A few hours ago. So I'm still on Pacific time to some extent. But 9 o'clock I had a meeting scheduled with the county superintendents and principals at the lodge. So pulled myself out of bed and there I am. And I can text them, and they're on my cell phones, and I gave that information out. But I said, what I really enjoy is being able to, because we have a relationship now, stop in anytime randomly when I have a few moments in the neighborhood and check in and see how things are going. I want to have that kind of relationship. So periodically I'll stop in and see the city manager at my cities, or the mayors, or the school folks, just so that they know that I'm available and we can do that, because those relationships are important.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and that's why I value, seriously, I value our time together, because I feel that I have a connection with the folks in Conneaut. They know where we are, and everything revolves around relationships.
You can't beat the venue we have here because they have the opportunity. You got a couple, 3 calls today, but they have the opportunity. He's got an open door policy. He'll welcome your phone calls, good, bad, or indifferent. When's your next appearance here in Conneaut? I know you meet at the Conneaut Human Resource Center.
Yeah, and I was on vacation last week. It's always the first Monday of the month.
Okay.
Always the first Monday of the month from 1 to 2:30. Just walk in the front doors of the Resource Center, and there I will be in the office.
So
It will be September. Okay, now we've got Labor Day.
Yes, I see
So
that.
I'm going to have to figure out. It could be the 14th. We'll figure out, and I'll let you know.
Let me know because
I'll let you know.
I get people, when's Mr. Patterson going to be in town? I go, well, I didn't know it was the first Monday.
It's always the first
Okay.
Monday.
Okay, yeah,
And,
that's first Monday in September is Labor Day.
Yeah.
So
How did that get up on us already?
I know.
It was Memorial Day last weekend, wasn't
John,
it?
I was just saying this morning before you came in that I was reading a column in the Erie Times yesterday that this writer was saying, do you realize we're in the middle of August already and we're going to be in September in just a couple of weeks? And he goes, this is where I start going downhill because he gets that August depression that some people get. And we just didn't have a long summer this year because of that long spring.
Yeah.
Wet, cold spring.
My father used to joke, because my grandfather used to joke, he'd say, and this is a family tradition on the 4th of July, well, it won't be long till Christmas. And then at Christmas he'd say, well, it won't be long till the 4th of July.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, that's.
We used to laugh about that. It's no laughing matter now.
No, it's kind of funny because at the 4th of July picnic this year, I go, is anybody going to be in town for Christmas Eve? That's their usually meeting time. And most of them are, now that the kids are gone and having babies someplace else, the parents are going to see them. So it looks like Michelle and I and maybe her sister and my brother-in-law will be the only one, and my son and his girl, the only ones for Christmas Eve this year, like it was last year. So everything is kind of compacted itself, with the time, with time, and that happens. What are you gonna do?
We just take time for purposeful relationship building,
That's right.
like seeing the sunset with your wife.
There you go, and coming and have milkshakes at the county
That's
fair.
right, Wednesday
on
night.
Wednesday at 7:30.
Yeah.
I remember.
I'll
that.
be there.
When are you coming back? Next month or?
Yeah.
you gonna be able to fit that in?
I will definitely do that, and we can do that once we wrap things up. We'll plug in, and I'll definitely be here, and I'll let you know for sure. Yeah, sometimes those Monday holidays get in the way, but it's important for me to be in Conneaut.